All right, what's up, future homeowners? Today I want to talk about 10 tips now that you're ready to start your home buying journey. It's going to be a quick guide to get you ready to find your piece of beautiful Washington State. By the way, my name is Cory Quinn with eXp Realty, and if you want to know anything more about the Seattle Eastside market, your property, or Seattle in general, feel free to reach out to me anytime. In the description below is my number, email, and calendar link, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you one-on-one about your situation. So if you're a first-time home buyer or you're buying your second or third home, I know that's a really big decision, and there's a lot to think about and consider, so this is going to be a guide to help you through that. All right, and it all starts with tip number 1, understanding your budget. And I love Mint's budget tracker for this. It's an app, it integrates with your bank account, and it actually will reflect every transaction against the budget that you set earlier in the month. And for obvious reasons, it's so important to have a clear picture of what you can afford and what you're comfortable paying every month. So start with all of your income sources, subtract all of your expenses, and then try not to forget about any future expenses as well, or things that you anticipate changing. So be super realistic about your financial situation, and it never hurts to reach out to a mortgage broker or loan officer to talk about a pre-qualification. All right, and tip number 2 is leveraging first-time homebuyer incentives and programs. Understanding all of your options might not just help you save money, but it might help you get into a house 2 or 3 years sooner than you thought you could have. So me personally, I took advantage of an FHA loan when I bought my first townhouse, and because of that, I only had to put 3.5% down. On a $270,000 house, it was not even $10,000, right? So I was able to get into a house about 3 years sooner and start building that equity. When you're able to get into some of these programs, you're just able to build equity so much sooner, and that could amount to tens of thousands of dollars down the road. So there's various assistance programs that's designed to make the buying process smoother and better. And so just a few of them I wanted to touch on. And first was actually the FHA loan that I just mentioned. It actually has less strict credit requirements than a conventional loan as well, and if you have a credit score of 580 or above, it's only 3.5% of the loan amount down. If you have over 500 credit score, it still is a benefit, and you just have to put 10% down. If you get into a house with less than 20% equity, then you're going to have to pay private mortgage insurance or PMI, which is a little extra cost, but it's totally worth it if you're getting into a house years sooner. And like I said, building that equity, maybe even house hacking, getting into a duplex or a triplex and renting out the other units puts you in a way better situation down the road. The next loan is a VA loan for veterans, which actually offers you a lower interest rate, therefore lower payments, and it comes with 0% down payment. Okay, so you have FHA, you have VA, and then there's USDA loan as well, and that's designed for individuals living in rural areas, which is classified as cities with less than 35,000 residents. The USDA loan also offers a 3.5% down payment as well as lower interest rates than an FHA loan. In our home state here in Washington, there's something called the Home Advantage Down Payment Assistance Program, and that will actually give you a loan for 3 to 4% of the loan amount, and you only have to pay it back at 0% interest rate. So it's basically free money. It's giving you that $12,000, $15,000 that you need to make a down payment, and then you pay it back at 0% interest rate, which is great. So make sure that you're talking to somebody about these options. There are even grants available when you qualify with certain criteria. The point is that there are programs out there that could really reduce your interest rate, reduce your payments, and put you in a better spot. And that brings us to tip number 3, getting pre-approved for a mortgage. So in tip number 1, we talked about getting pre-qualified, which gives you a really good estimate of how much you can afford on a monthly basis. But go ahead and get a pre-approval letter with your lender as well if you're serious and you're ready to go. It just goes another step further and actually will verify your credit and your finances. You're going to want to gather all of your W-2s, your proof of income, your pay stubs, and tax returns over the last 2 years. Then you're going to get a credit inquiry done. They're going to look at your median credit score and give you an exact interest rate, which gives you an exact monthly payment that you can expect. So then you have a much better idea of the price range that you can shop in. So having that pre-approval letter in hand does 2 things. 1, it shows the seller that you're a much more serious buyer, you're ready to go, and you can probably close quicker. And 2, gives you a much stronger position in negotiations at the offer table, and it'll help streamline the buying process. After you fill out that loan application, it probably takes 7 to 10 business days to get the pre-approval letter in hand. But having all of that documentation ready that we talked about earlier, W-2s, tax returns, is certainly going to help expedite that process. All right, that brings us to tip number 4, researching neighborhoods. So this is going to be super important to get into the right neighborhood that matches your lifestyle, your preferences, and what's important to you. So let's really take some time and research what neighborhood you want to be in. This is something I want to dive into a lot deeper in this channel specifically and give you guys a really good idea of the culture and the vibe in certain neighborhoods in specific cities. So you want to consider the location, of course. Do you want to be closer to amenities, parks, grocery stores, hospitals, schools, etc.? Do you want to be near the water? Is one more important than the other? Make a list of 10 things that are really important to you in that neighborhood, and then you can refine your search. Then you want to think about proximity to your work, right? Are you going to be driving every day? Start thinking about those commute times, and we're going to talk about that in the next tip, actually. As far as safety, we can look at crime rates by neighborhood, by city, and then we can look at the quality of the schools as well to make sure you're getting into an area that's safe and secure for your family. And of course, financially, you want to look at the cost of living in that area, property taxes, but also the potential appreciation of that property that you're looking at. Look at some trends over the last few years, and maybe you can get a good idea of the value of that property in the future. Another thing people don't talk about too often is the owner occupancy rate. If the owner occupancy rate is higher, that means people have lived in those houses and there's less renters. So you want to get into a neighborhood with less turnover, or maybe that's not as important to you. And another big one is tip number 5, considering your commute and transportation times. Traffic on the Seattle East Side can vary greatly, so super important to think about how far it's going to take you to get to your family, to work, etc., wherever you're going to be going. You do have multiple bus options. If you plan on taking the bus, you have King County Metro, Sound Transit, and then there's a new light rail that goes from Northgate, North Seattle. There's about 30 stops that goes all the way down to SeaTac. Right now, they're completing an East Link light rail that goes from Seattle over Mercer Island to Bellevue, to the Overlake area, and then ends in Redmond. So depending on your options and preferences, factor in how far you're willing to commute and explore public transportation. Or maybe you want to ride your bike, you want to walk, or drive yourself into work. So you want to look for a neighborhood where that makes the most sense. Me personally, I live in Duval. I chose to get a little bit more for my money and drive into the city for work. That brings us to tip number 6, which is understanding the escrow process, and that can actually be pretty complex, especially for first-time homebuyers, so let's break it down a little bit. Escrow's purpose, basically, is to hold all of the important documents, any earnest money or funds, until all of the conditions of the sale are met. So it holds on to things like title, property tax info, loan documents, and a purchase agreement. During the escrow process is the inspection of the property. They do a title search. Escrow accounts for any closing costs or additional fees. Your loan gets processed and then approved. And then funds get placed into escrow for the final closing. So after both parties sign, the funds would get distributed, the transaction gets recorded, and then ownership officially gets transferred over to the buyer. So escrow is your friend, right? Escrow helps ensure a secure and smooth process for both parties, and it's essential to any real estate transaction. And that brings us to tip number 7. Don't skip the inspection. This is actually your chance to uncover any potential issues with the property or the house before you seal the deal. It can really help reveal any hidden problems and help you negotiate the price or ask for repairs to be done. Remember that the buyer typically does pay for the inspection. It's considered part of the closing costs, but it is paid at the time of inspection. For condos and townhomes, you're looking at $200 to $300 for an inspection. For homes above 2,000 square feet, you're looking closer to $400 to $600. All right, tip number 8 revolves around seasonal factors. So the seasons actually do make a difference when you're buying a house in Seattle. There's a couple trains of thought here. It's because summer usually comes with more listings and higher prices, and winter usually comes with fewer listings but better deals. So you want to consider your preferences and market trends accordingly, depending on what time of the year it is. Maybe you want to try and get a better deal, or maybe you want to buy when there's a lot more options available to you. And of course, now that you've found me, I'm happy to discuss those market conditions with you when you're ready to make the move. All right, and tip number 9 is consulting a real estate professional, and working with an agent really can save you a lot of time, money, and unnecessary stress. Like we just talked about, having that local expert can ensure that you're getting into a neighborhood that you want to be a part of. An agent can help you structure a deal more competitively. They can look at comparable homes, dig up facts on the neighborhood and the homeowners in the past, navigate through that inspection process, and that's really where you can save thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, is negotiating the price as well as the adjusted price with the inspection. And last but not least, they can make sure that you are staying on top of the homes that come onto the market. You get first pick, and then you can even access properties with an agent that are not readily available to the public yet. Lastly, we're at tip number 10. Just trust your instincts, enjoy the process. Buying a home should be a fun and exciting journey, and you really want to find a place where you can create new memories and build a future. So just trust yourself, trust your gut, and embrace this exciting adventure. And there you have it, 10 tips for first-time homebuyers in beautiful Washington State. I sincerely hope you found this guide helpful on your path to homeownership. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button as I'm getting this new channel started, and I will see you in the next video. Happy house hunting.